Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Adrienne Ross Show, the basketball edition. I just finished reading Kelsey Mitchell's article. Article seems to be the wrong word. Article almost sounds impersonal, and her thoughts were anything but impersonal. In fact, I have to be honest and say that I was choked up. My eyes might be red. I just was grabbed by what she shared about her father. Yes, she talked about basketball, and I'll get into that because obviously we can't talk about her father without talking about his impact on basketball in her life. But she talked about basketball, but what I was sensing was so much more than basketball. It was about her father and the impact he had on her life and how losing him unexpectedly in March has affected her life and led her to writing what she wrote. And it wasn't just that her dad passed away at 56 years old unexpectedly, but I think that did grab my heart because I lost my dad. He was only 46, and it was also unexpected. And so I got a little bit stirred up, I guess, because of that. My dad on November 7th would have celebrated his 77th birthday. And Kelsey was extremely close to her father, and she expresses that through various stories. I will put a link in the video description so that you could read it. I'm not going to share the whole thing. It's long, and it's so well written that you should read it yourself. Now, I had to wonder what made her write this. We know that Kelsey is over in China playing basketball, and I thought, well, this is certainly not the anniversary of his death. He passed away this year in March. Sometimes people write tributes for reasons like that. It wasn't that. And so then I thought, well, is it his birthday? And no, his birthday was April 20th, if what I read is correct. So it's not that. Now, she just had a birthday on November 12th, yesterday. But no, it wasn't his birthday. So it leads me to wonder, why is she writing what she's writing? Because honestly, it does sound like a goodbye letter to the Indiana Fever in a way. I'm not saying that's what it is, but it doesn't sound like a hello letter to anyone in particular, but it sounds like sort of what people would say or would put out when they were saying goodbye. I'll talk a little bit more about that, I think. But first, I do want to share some parts of her article, for lack of a better word. So you see that smile there with her in uniform, and it just says Fever. And like I said, I don't want to read all of this at all, but I do want to read this portion, or some of this portion. Actually, I'll read this whole portion, these two paragraphs, these three paragraphs, actually. She says, if you're a real one, I'll rock with you forever. Real is being a witness to somebody's journey. It's recognizing, hey, she's been with the Fever since the beginning, and she's still standing. So to the ones who've been here and have had a respect for me even before all this, I have nothing but love. For those who have taken the time to get to know me and show respect to my game, I'm extremely humbled. I had a small fan base when I got to Indiana 6 years ago. Y'all know who y'all are. I wouldn't have made it here without you. Anyone who knows me will tell you I'm not one to do too much talking. It just isn't my strong suit. But being the person I've grown into, I just wanted to take a second to say thank y'all from the bottom of my heart. It's why I wanted to step outside my comfort zone to write this. This was one of the hardest seasons I've ever been through, in basketball and in life, because for the first time, I had to learn how to do it without my dad, my OG best friend. And here's a picture of the two of them. Now, her father, Mark Mitchell, was a respected coach to other teams, high school, college. But when you read this, you'll see that he was a much more respected coach, even more than that, by his family. I didn't know that Kelsey is a twin. And I also didn't know she had twin brothers, and she's a twin and it's Kelsey and Chelsea. She goes on to talk about her mother. I love my mama like no other. But the love of hoop my dad and I shared was just a tad bit different. And so she was a daddy's girl. She loved her father to the core. He took them to different areas so that they could play basketball with different people, get knocked around a bit, teaching her that you have what it takes and preparing her for what was to come. And so they had a special bond. And like I said, she goes on, she shares stories. Here's a picture when she went to the draft, 2018. She was drafted number 2. And she just shares the whole experience of it. And I'm gonna stop here because there's so much here. And honestly, you need to read it yourself. But let me read this part before I close out this. She said, but we leaned on each other to get through it. They were talking about the team, the Indiana Fever. There were moments throughout the season when Katie Lou checked on me and I checked on her. Christy Wallace was there for me in Chicago when I couldn't hold back my emotions about my dad during shoot around. And she noticed and gave me a safe place to just bawl my eyes out. Damaris was back and getting into her own rhythm, so Timmy and I would check on her and see how she was adjusting. And Damaris would check on Grace if she was going through something. And Grace would check on Lexi, and Lexi checked on E-Dub and Timmy, while E-Dub checked on Liz, AB, and V. Basically, none of the chaos seeped into our locker room. We really held each other down. So our 11, who were professional, competitive, and selfless through it all, I wouldn't trade them for the world. I wouldn't have asked to do this with anybody else. And I have so much respect for Caitlin, especially, and how she handled it as a youngin'. I hope we did a good job of being there for you too, see. I gave her flowers early in the game because the eyes she brought shined a light on all of us too. Okay, I'm going to stop here. I'm already feeling the emotions again, but you've got to read it all. She says some things about what the team dealt with, spoke out against some things that she feels strongly about, talked about how people were disrespected, not just their team, but other players in the WNBA. She really laid it all on the line. And so it's a good read. Now, back to what I said about this feeling like a goodbye. I couldn't find any reason for her writing it. Not that she needs one, right? She's over in China. Her father passed away in March. Remember, then you had the draft, and you had the season. You've got all this stuff. And sometimes when you're dealing with loss, you got other things that are kind of keeping you going, keeping you from thinking too much sometimes. Sometimes that's good, sometimes it's not. But then sometimes things slow down or they look different. And that gives you a time to reflect. And as a writer myself, as an author myself, as an English teacher myself, I can tell you that writing is so powerful. It can be painful. It can also be therapeutic. And so she expresses herself in writing. And so I just want to express to Kelsey Mitchell, dear Kelsey. Kelsey, you thank the real fans. You go in here, thank the fans, the old fans, the newer fans, the ones who are real, you thank them. And so I, as a person who leads this channel where we are honestly very pro Fever, right? No mistakes about it. We're not trying to pretend we're not pro Caitlin Clark, pro Indiana Fever, pro Kelsey Mitchell. So I just want to say, we appreciate you. We appreciate what you have brought to the table, not just basketball, even though that's why we tuned in. That's how we got to know anything about you. But we also took note of how you carried yourself before the media, after games, before games, with your teammates, and how you all grew together as the season went on, particularly in the second half. We appreciate you. You said in your letter that honestly, You don't know what uniform you're going to be in. You don't know. You've never been a free agent before, and you look forward to exploring the opportunities. And I take you at your word. I truly believe that you're not necessarily saying that you're going to another team, but I believe you are saying that you don't know and that you are open to that possibility. And I know that when you're going through things and walking through things and dealing with grief and new opportunities present themselves, it's wise to see what's going on. And sometimes we make decisions because of the situation we find ourselves in, because of the emotions we find ourselves in. And so what I'm going to say is that I'll be praying that you will be in the place that God wants you to be in, and that you'll make decisions based on his direction, not on emotion, not on expectations, not on grief, but on God's direction. And you wrote in your article that getting closer to God helped you and is helping you through what you have experienced with your father. And so prayers for you as you navigate this season in your life, a place you've never been in, personally with your dad, but also professionally in the WNBA. So I trust that as you seek him, God, he will lead you, guide you, and direct you. So there are my thoughts to you, Kelsey Mitchell. And to the rest of us, I'm just going to say this. I still believe, professionally speaking, this union that Kelsey Mitchell has with the Indiana Fever, who have voiced that they want her on this team and are willing to do what it takes to keep her. I think that's a great scenario for her. I think it's what we want to see. And I don't know that it can get any better than that, but I don't know all that's going on. I don't know if she has moves she wants to make to be closer to her family. I don't know if she wants to start something new. I just know that it sounds to me like she might be saying, I'm wide open to doing something else. But I do believe her when she says, I don't know. I expect to see her in an Indiana Fever jersey next season, but I can't say so for certain. I just can't tell. The letter, the timing, all of it, not sure. But I appreciate those words. And I got really emotional as I was reading them. And that's really all I wanted to say. My dear Kelsey comments, and also my comments to those of you who are tuned in. And I am curious about what you think. You know, sometimes people make decisions because of all the thoughts and the emotions and stuff. And then sometimes people make professional decisions that those of us on the outside looking in are like, no, don't make them. I guess we're going to find out soon enough. But I am curious about what your thoughts are. But before you make those comments, read what she wrote, because I think that is, I think it speaks volumes. It will speak volumes about what your perspective is before you comment. That's probably wise to do that. All right. So thank you for listening, and make sure you hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, share. I appreciate all of you. God bless you abundantly, and I'll catch you next time, God willing.